Okay, my name is Richard Aldrich, and this is my persuasive speech. One day years ago, I was working at my pizza delivery job. Everything was normal. It was just another day. I came back from a delivery and went to my trunk to grab my pizza bag and started walking to the store. And this whole time, I was watching this guy walk up to the store. Not really watching him. I just noticed him really. Um, and as I got to the store, he started to open up it up, turned around, noticed me finally, and looked me up and down, kept walking. I didn't really think much of it as I walked inside, but I took one last glance as he kept going by, and he had a revolver in his back pocket, like a really big gun. Um, and my stomach dropped. Um, it was the first time I think I I might have stopped a robbery. I don't really know, and that's why I don't really talk about it. But I think I stopped a robbery that day. Um, Unfortunately, though, that wasn't the last time first time my store had dealt with it, and it wasn't the last time. I chose that story in particular, because it sparked something in me. I had to know where I stood on gun control. So I started doing the research to form some opinions, and so today we'll see that, and I came up with these opinions, and today we'll see that Congress should pass more gun control laws. We'll see two reasons why Congress should pass gun control legislations. What is the first gun control law that should be passed by Congress? Well, the first gun control law that should be passed should restrict gun access to those who are mature enough to use guns legally. Before I go any further, I would like to get into what gun violence is, and this must be prefaced by one fact. In 1996, the NRA cut funding to the CDC. So the National Rifle Association cut funding to the Center for Disease Control for conducting any more research on firearm-related issues by cutting their budget. This is not to say they don't conduct any research on the topic, but it had been significantly restricted, and the overall amount of information was relatively sparse for such a complicated subject. And there are now more guns in Americans' hands than ever before. In a study made by Colquitt and others, it was shown that the more often shootings happened, legislation was passed, as well as an increase in firearms every January that measure was introduced, and with it comes an increase in deaths. In 2020, according to a report made by Davis and others, the U.S. recorded 45,222 firearm-related deaths. That number is well over 100 people a day, and was the highest amount of firearm deaths in American history. More than 30 people died from firearms. More people under 30 died from firearms rather than from COVID than at its height. Of that 45,000, 24,292 were suicides, a common trend in firearm deaths. These are just some examples of gun violence, and I will bring up more in the next point. But this is enough for my current point, which is that a vast majority of these deaths could have been avoided with common sense gun laws, like licenses, background checks, and age restrictions. There are many ways to prove this fact, but I think the most simplest way to point out how other countries do this already. In an extensive study conducted by Santello Tenorio, and others concluded that countries that follow these guidelines in any way have significantly reduced gun violence. In fact, what's even more interesting is that countries that have more recently adopted these laws, like Canada, New Zealand, and Australia, have shown a decline in gun violence altogether. So we've seen the first way gun control works, and that is that common sense gun laws can reduce gun violence. What is the second gun control law that should be passed by Congress? Well, the second gun control law that should be passed by Congress is an assault weapons ban. How do you define mass shooting? How you define mass shootings is still up in the air. This is perhaps due to America's uniqueness in this matter to the rest of the world. According to World Population Review, even though America only makes up for 5% of the world's population, 31% of mass shootings happen in the U.S. When it comes to school shooting, something that is very uniquely American, we have more than the rest of the world combined, and not even by a little bit. This is the rest of the world, and this is America. We have so many school death shootings, and as a result, a nation's leading cause of death for children is firearms. While it is true most shootings in America are committed with handguns, according to Everytown, the deadliest shootings are committed with assault rifles. For example, in 2017's Las Vegas Country Festival shootings, over 50 were shot dead and hundreds injured, all with multiple assault rifles. More recently, an assault rifle was used to kill 19 elementary students and 2 teachers in the Uvalde shootings. These children were no older than 11 years old. Even more so, in shootings where an assault rifle is used, the victim count is always higher. Everytown reported that mass shootings where an assault rifle was used accounted for 25% of all deaths. I'm going to try that again. Everytown reported that mass shootings where an assault rifle was used accounted for 20% of deaths in all mass shootings and 76% of injuries. This should be sufficient evidence to show that assault rifle bans can reduce mass shootings. But if that's not enough to convince you, let it be known that between 1994 and 2004, here in America, there was an assault rifle ban. The results? Well, according to DiMaggio and others, even though during that time period the infamous Columbine shootings happened, the 10-year ban saw a much lower yearly averages for both mass shootings and deaths. So we see 2 reasons why Congress should pass gun control legislation. First, with the restrictive access to only those who are mature enough to use a firearm. Second, the assault rifle bans. It's no secret that these ideas are seen as outrageous to a fair amount of the public, especially in America. Some might say, "Hey Richard, I hear you that we need more gun control measures, but what about my right to own a firearm according to the Second Amendment? What about my need for self-defense?" This is understandable. You hear so many headlines nowadays about shooters, it seems almost necessary to own one for self-defense. I would want one to protect myself and my family even more. However, a quick history lesson would show that the Founding Fathers never meant for the Second Amendment to be applied to the individuals, but to militias, or what is the military is now. And even then, it specifically says, being necessary to the security of a free state, which is something that America has had no issues for hundreds of years. We have not had foreign invasion since the British left in the 1700s. Another point to make is that firearms are almost never used in self-defense. In a study performed by Hemingway and others, over 14,000 incidents were gathered. Most of these were home invasions. Less than 1% of involved incidents involved self-defense with a gun. In fact, evidence shows that those who used a gun for self-defense were more likely to use property and increase damages because of it. So maybe reconsider your approach to self-defense. The presence of a gun makes it more likely to be used, which is one reason why firearms are the leading cause of deaths for kids. It makes it easier for them to literally pull the trigger and commit suicide. Ask yourself, is this going to do more harm than good for me and everyone else around me? So, what would America look like if Congress decided to pass these laws? Well, imagine no fear of going out in public, asking yourself if today was going to be the day. Think about how often you go out in public, just about every day, right? It's unavoidable. You have to go to school. You have to get gas. You have to go to work. You're not any less risk of going to the gas station than going to the local parade. Everywhere has a potential to be on the news later because of a shooting, with headlines reading 9 dead and dozens injured, 4 children dead. But that's you. What about your children? Remember, firearms are the leading cause of death for children in America. And a big reason for that is our school shootings. Wouldn't it be great to send your kids to school and not even worry about it? The fact that we've gotten to this point already is outrageous to me. Think about it, really. Otherwise, your own kids could be suffering that same fate as the Uvalde children. Now that we know why Congress should pass gun control legislation, what can we do about it? And it's simple. Protest. It's actually about the only thing you can do. There are many ways to do this. You can write your governor. You can take to the streets. Vote vote for who gets in the office, even social media. Another way, another way is you simply talk to people. This is a bit more difficult, and I don't mean to try and convince people who don't agree. More just talk. Tell them the terrifying statistics I've already told you so far, and what it means to you. But also listen to them. A lot of these people are not going to change their views after one conversation. But it doesn't mean you should give up or get angry with them. You gotta keep talking to them, and just maybe they'll hear you. So in conclusion, we've seen 2 gun control laws that Congress should pass. First, again, it should be restricted to those who are mature enough. And secondly, assault rifles should be banned. So next time you read about America's latest shooting, which honestly could even be today when you're watching this or reading this, think about how it could have been avoided. I trust you will, and if not for the sake of this country, at least for your children. Thank you.